Hi, my name's Catherine and I read 21 books in the month of June. It's June, right? Yeah, it's June. You know what, let me start over, hold on. So, I mentioned broadly that I'm doing this fellowship, don't know what I'm doing with my hands. Basically, I spent the entire month of June reading books. The whole thing was just books, all day, all the time. So I read 21 books this month, an unprecedented number for me, I'm sure. And who knows if I'll ever get the opportunity to read this much again, so I'm kind of like partying while I can. So let's get into them, because this video is going to be a long one. So my question is, how does someone speak eloquently about 21 books that they've read in a fever dream of academia, and mostly academia, some emotion, some fear, some anger? And the answer to that question is, they don't speak eloquently about it, and I'm not going to. I'm going to tell you my stream of consciousness emotions that I've got going on, because this month I spent more time sequenced in narrative. Is sequenced a word? I am so out of it. Sequenced in narrative than I ever have before. And in the best way possible, I've felt like a ghost. Like I've been floating through stories and like suctioning up ideas, and in the best way. It's been amazing. But also, like, I can't tell you eloquently about them because, you know, they're like sitting here under my skin, and it'd be like if I like took some of my bone marrow and handed it to you and was like, this is my blood type. Is this making any sense to anyone? I don't know. I'm feeling very weird right now. I'm very tired, if you can't tell from everything about me. So finally getting started. I've already been filming 3 minutes and I haven't held up a single book. The first book I read in the month of June was The Unparalleled, The Unprecedented, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This book has framed my entire month because it's what I'm basing my research off of. The enemies to lovers trope, and 5 out of 5 stars. Nothing more I can say. Jane really went out there and did that, and nobody's ever been able to do it quite like that since. I'm about to go through really quick, like 5 novels by a woman named Charlotte Bram. Let me know if you want a full video on her, because I would be more than happy to provide it. Charlotte Bram basically wrote a lot of fluffy Victorian romances for the lower class in England, and I'm using her in my research, so I read 5 of her books that are available on Project Gutenberg. Those books were My Mother's Rival, A Wife in Name Only, A Mad Love, Love Works Wonders, and Dora Thorne. Ha! Okay. Do I recommend any of these books? Unknown. Don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. All I'll say is Charlotte really went in there and was like, all men suck, but also women are stupid and just all the same. 2 character archetypes. So let me know if you want a video on Charlotte Bram, because now my brain is filled with her and her excessive use of tropes. Next, I read The Plague by Albert Camus. We don't need to talk about this. Honestly, don't recommend it at all. Not even just because why would I read it during a pandemic? The worst idea. Why do I do this? But also, I didn't enjoy it. It was kind of just boring. You can see my hair like popping, and that's how you know I'm really upset. Boring, annoying, probably shouldn't have read it during a pandemic. Don't recommend. Next, I read Kindred by Octavia Butler. This was amazing. It freaking rocked my world. I had never read Octavia Butler before this year, and this is just another, like, out of the park, beautiful. I cried. I don't have anything articulate to say about it, but I do recommend it. Next, I read Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. My first time reading this sucker, and can I just tell you that it was wild. You think it's going real well. You're just chucking along, feeling real good. And then, like, there's little hints of racism. Like, every once in a while, she sprinkles in something, and you're like, I don't know about that. but you continue because it's Jane Eyre, and then you get to the last section and it just goes off the rails and you're like, Charlotte, you have gone full on bigot. You gotta calm down. However, I do recommend this book. I enjoyed it a lot. I like Jane. I think she's awesome. We can discuss how weird Mr. Rochester is at a later time, but I read Jane Eyre and I enjoyed it, even though I was exceptionally racist. Next, I read The Soul of a Man Under Socialism by Oscar Wilde. This slapped. I love it. If you have any interest in socialism, or if you just want to read something awesome by Oscar Wilde, this is amazing. You know, he really went off. You always think of Oscar Wilde, like, at least what people tell you about Oscar Wilde is he's like, oh, he was like a flamboyant gay guy who wrote Picture of Dorian Gray, and, you know, he did that, and that's awesome. But he also was a fervent political activist and socialist, and this text is so good, I'm probably gonna invest in a copy of it. Next, I read Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This was a 4 to 5 stars for me. It wasn't as amazing as I expected it to be, but that is just because I was expecting it to be a 5 out of 5 impeccable book. I was expecting it to hit like Secret History combined with Six of Crows, and no one can do that. No one can hit that. So maybe I'm holding it to an impossible standard, but I'm still giving it a 4 out of 5. So next, I read Emma by Jane Austen. This is again part of my research fellowship. I related too much to Emma and it disturbed me. This book is so funny. People never think about Jane Austen as being funny, but she's hilarious. The way that she writes is so like satirical, and it totally shows the intricacies and the like hilarities and the ridiculousness of this period and the social standards that it's in, and also how like dumb our interactions with other people can be. I also have an issue with the Mr. Knightley age gap with him and Emma, but you know, discussion for another video. I really enjoyed this. Next, I read White Fragility by Raven D'Angelo. This was quite good. I do think it was for people who had never had any experience with like social justice or racism before and hadn't really done any other education on the subject. I do recommend it nonetheless, even if like you think that you are educated, because you can never like look at the fundamentals too much. But yeah. Next, I read Are Prisons Obsolete by Angela White Davis. This was freaking amazing. I always forget about Angela Davis's texts and how great they are until I read another one, and then I'm like, I can't believe we're living in the same time as this genius. And it's like the same thing as Stephen Hawking for me. Like, people were like, oh, when he died, people were like, can't believe we lived at the same time as the man who figured out the stars. And I can't believe we're living at the same time as this woman who is like laying out how to solve systemic racism. Amazing. Highly recommend everything she's ever written. Next, I read Of Fire and Stars by Audrey Colehurst. I will link my review of this up above. Quite liked it. It's a cute little gay romance, and it was a quick little read. Next, I read The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. This was for my women's studies class. I was rereading it. You know, hits every time. Hits every time. I'm hoping that this reread will be enough to push me into reading the Testaments next month, but who knows? Who knows? Next, I read The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. That name was probably butchered, I'm sorry. This was super good. I love a good thriller, and this delivered on it. I was not expecting the twist at the end at all. Just completely mind blown. So if you like thrillers, highly recommend. Next, I read Much Ado About Nothing and The Taming of the Shrew by William Shakespeare. I did these both for my research fellowship, and I really recommend these copies particularly because they have, each page is like, they tell you exactly what the words mean because it's in Old English. So you gotta, well, it's not Old English. I'm literally in the middle of my Old English, Middle English section for my linguistics class. I should know the difference, but this, it shows like it translates it kind of for you. So yeah, I mean, it's Shakespeare. I don't know if I can recommend them. They're just classics. I read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I think it was well written until the last 25%, and then it was a wild, twisting ride to the end to accomplish what Suzanne Collins needed to accomplish for the story. Also, not super psyched that she decided to release a story that humanizes and creates empathy for a fascist dictator during a civil revolution, but you know, it's none of my business, I suppose. And finally, I read Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey Niquiston, one of my favorite books of all time. I'll link the review up above because I can't condense it right now. But if you haven't read this yet, please read it. Order it at your local library. Actually, that's going to be my next spiel. Hold on. So, I know we're in the middle of a pandemic. Some people's libraries may be opening. I'm not quite sure. I personally cannot leave my house as someone who's in the high-risk category. So, I'm gonna, once again, you know, it won't be a video on my channel unless I mention this. Use Libby. Please use Libby. It is amazing. It allows you to listen to ebooks and audiobooks from your local library for free, and it is stupendous. I've read more than I ever could read, especially right now through this app, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. Also, call your local library and just talk to your local librarians. Librarians are amazing, and all they want to do is help their community to be able to have access to information and reading materials. So give your local library a call and see what you can do. That was 21 books in the month of June. Am I gonna be this person in July? Who knows? I hope so, but maybe not. Like, comment, subscribe, and I hope you're doing really well. Bye!